Hello, this is Beastly Eel, and on today's episode, we're going to be talking about masked. Well, I don't want to say heroes, masked people who vigilantes. Not the best way to put it. This episode is really focused on people who are wearing masks and people who don't know who the heck they are. Now, part of this has to do with the fact that to be a part of this group, they don't just have to wear a mask, their identity has to be a secret. That's a big factor into this, so that people aren't aware of who is behind the mask. Now, at times, people have been aware of who these people are, but overall, for a long period of time, most people in their universe did not know who was actually behind the mask. It took a long period of time, possibly decades, before they even figured out who the heck they actually were. So let's get right to it. So we're going to be talking about the top 10 masked people. And number 10 on this list is actually Shredder from the Ninja Turtles. So Shredder is a villain. He is the leader of the Foot Clan. And the Foot Clan, the Foot Clan are a ninja group that have gone against the Ninja Turtles. Now, Shredder, for a long time, nobody just knew who he was, but he was just called the Shredder. The reason why he's so low on this list has to do with the fact that not many people know who he is, in the sense of like outside the mask, but at the same time, people know who he is by sight. So like, oh no, it's Shredder. Like he's known as Shredder. Like, oh my God, it's Shredder. But also his backstory has changed a bit through the years. It's gone back and forth between being the ninja who trained, who fought the trainer of Splinter, who is the rat trainer of the rat sensei, of the Ninja Turtles. But also, he's also been an alien too. So, like, it's because he wears a mask, there's been a lot of back and forth between that, and that's why he's low on this list. But still, a decent member on this list that should have been added. So, number 9 on this list, I've actually added Catwoman. Catwoman being Selena Kyle. Not many people knowing who she is until she gets arrested, obviously. But she goes for a decent amount of time, nobody knowing quite who Catwoman is. But again, the reason why I put her low on this list has to do with the fact that, after being arrested, everyone knows who Catwoman is, Selena Kyle. So therefore, her mask was kind of pointless, and she was just wearing it more for the costume than it was to actually cover her face, which is again why she's so low on this list. But I definitely thought she deserved to be on it because, for a time, not many people knew who the heck the Catwoman was. So number 8 on this list is actually from a horror series. Now, just so you're aware, I didn't put Jason or Michael Myers on this list because everyone knows who the heck they are. Their name is literally in it. They might not show their face, but everyone knows who's behind the mask. That's why they're not on this. But there is a horror character who was put on this list because they might not necessarily be the scariest, but it took a long time to figure out who the heck this person was. And in fact, it wasn't just one person, it was multiple people wearing this costume. And it was Ghostface. Ghostface is from the Scream series. And Ghostface is not just one character. They've been played by multiple characters wearing the traditional mask in kind of Grim Reaper costume, stabbing people, killing people, and overall. And for most of the series, no one ever really knows who Ghostface is, even though for the movie you eventually find out who it is. But in the grand scheme of things, Ghostface is like, well, who's under the mask? And that's kind of why he's on this list. I shouldn't say he, they are on this list, because it could be anybody. Nobody quite knows who Ghostface is. And that's why they're on this list so high. On this list, and in a decent number at number 8. So number seven on this list, I put because I don't know a lot about them in the sense of they're known as the Question from DC Comics. They're a detective who wears this kind of layer of skin, let's say, over their face to kind of cover their facial features so it's not easy for people to know who the heck they are. And the reason why I didn't put the Question higher on this list is because not much is known about him, and the argument could be that, well, maybe that's why you should put him higher on this list, beastly EO. But realistically, not much is known about them to begin with. I mean, yes, we know they're a detective. We do know, as audience members, know who he is. But, like, does everybody else know who he is? Or is it kind of more of just like, nobody really cares, is the Question, let's move on. So that's why he's number 7 on this list. I didn't want to put him too high because, like I said, I don't know much about him. I know he's a very interesting character. I know I posted an older video that I'd like to see a live action version of him. But realistically, we don't know much about him. So number 6 on this list is a nostalgic thing for me. It is the Power Rangers. I almost said Mighty Morphin. But specifically, not so much the Power Rangers as a whole, specifically the Phantom Ranger. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Phantom Ranger was introduced in Turbo and then was later brought back into Power Rangers in Space. Now, maybe they've announced who that Ranger is, and I'm not aware. But the rumor has always been that it was Billy, because after Zeo, he kind of, had some age issues and was sent away, and then this Phantom Ranger came around and nobody knew who the heck he was, and so everyone kind of guessed that it was Billy, because he needed to always be morphed to be kept alive. And the reason why I put the Phantom Ranger specifically on this list is because the other Rangers were kind of known who they were. Now, I know what you're thinking, well, not everybody knew who they were. No, but their villains did. And that becomes a problem. So that's why I put the Phantom Ranger specifically, because nobody knew who they were. I mean, it was a secret to everybody. Everyone was kind of like, well, who's the Phantom Ranger? Is it Jason? Is it Billy? Who the heck is the Phantom Ranger? And a lot of people, like I said, still think it was Billy Batson, who was the original Blue Ranger, but to my knowledge, it has not been officially announced who the heck that Ranger is. So that's why that person is number 6 on this list, because nobody knows who it is. And for realistically, it could be nobody at all. But yeah, again, the reason why I didn't put the person higher on this list is because the Phantom Ranger themselves did not really do much in the series, in my personal opinion. It was kind of like, oh, they need help, I'm going to come help them, and then, all right, I'm gone. And that's why they're not higher on this list. If they were a more seasoned actor in there, what I mean by that is if the Phantom Ranger was a bigger part in the series, I would have put them higher on this list, because even the audience didn't know who they were, and that is a big factor in my opinion, and that's why they're so high on this list. So now we're going to be going into the top 5. Now the top 5, I want to preface this by being vigilantes, but also many people did not know who they were. I say many because everybody on this list at some point got exposed, except for the Phantom Ranger. So number 5 on this list is Robin. All Robins. So I was debating on whether there'd be like a Nightwing, Red Hood, Batgirl, Huntress, Batwoman, you name it. I was thinking about it. But realistically, in the grand scheme of things, Robin kind of covers most of them. Not many people knew who Robins, or any of the Robins, were. It was always kept a secret. Nobody was quite sure who they were, and it was better that way. It was always a younger person, but like I said, overall, not many people knew who they were. Villain-wise, for the most part, for a long period of time, nobody knew who they were. And throughout most of the series, many of them were exposed other than to other superheroes. Now, they're low on this list because they're on the bottom of the top 5 because they are just sidekicks. Now, I know what you're going to argue. Well, Nightwing becomes his own hero. Red Hood becomes his own vigilante. Yes, you're correct. But again, Robin as a whole is just a sidekick. And they eventually just become Batman knockoffs. And I know I hate saying it that way, but let's be honest, it's true. And that's why they're low on this list, because they're just copies of what has already existed. Wink, wink, wink till later. Number 4. Number 4 on this list is V. Now, V, for those of you who don't know, is from V from Vendetta. He's a masked vigilante who attacks all the people in London to try to protect those who need protecting. He faces the government and Parliament to try to take them down because they were trying to take too much of the freedoms away from the people. Apparently he was experimented on and left to be burned alive, but was able to escape and donned on this mask and wig. And for the most part, many people didn't know who they were. Obviously, eventually it was known and everything else, and they realized, oh my gosh, it's the one that we experimented on. Oh, we're in trouble. And he kills a lot of them. He does die. The reason why I didn't put him higher on the list is because, and people are going to get mad at me, but he's not as exposed as all the others on this list. Still a great vigilante, masked figure. Not many people know who they are. Their love interest was Natalie Portman. I know what you're thinking. What does that matter? It doesn't. I'm just added it in for shits and giggles. But again, they're number 4 on this list, and I thought that they deserved some sort of spotlight in this. So number 3 is a vigilante in the Marvel Universe and technically doesn't have any superpowers. I say technically. This person was a full-fledged lawyer, blind at the age of, I think, 10. Toxic waste blasted in their eyes, and then was able to realize that they have echovision. Echovision, for those of you who don't know, using sound to pinpoint locations and objects of where they are. Daredevil is that person. Daredevil is Matt Murdock, and for a long period of time, not many people know who they are. Lawyer by day, vigilante, beating up the bad guys at night. When he couldn't win in the courtroom, he'd take it to the streets and beat them down. I know what you're thinking, why so low on this list? Number 3, and I know what you're thinking, well, 3's not super low, and it's not. I didn't put them as number 1 because the superhero community know that Matt Murdock was Daredevil. I mean, many of them knew. I mean, definitely during the Civil War, people knew who Matt Murdock was. Behind the scenes. They didn't necessarily brag about it and for the media to know, but many people knew that Matt Murdock was Daredevil. So that's why I put him 3rd on the list. So top 2 on this list are vigilantes. They fought in death battle. One was superior than the other, but in this particular one, it's the opposite. Number 2 I put on here is Spider-Man. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why is Spider-Man number 2? Who the heck could be number 1? We'll talk about that in a minute. Spider-Man is on this list because it's Peter Parker, Miles Morales. Who else has been Spider-Man? I mean, there's been a few. Not many people knew who was behind the mask. And that's very important because as a superhero, you had to kind of keep your identity safe so that way the family you had was protected. And Peter Parker was that person. He wanted to make sure that his Aunt May was safe, and Mary Jane, and who else? Gwen Stacy, but she kind of got her neck snapped. But overall, trying to keep your secret identity safe. Now, The real reason why I put this person at number 2 and not number 1 is because they are superpowered. They're a mutant in some sort of capacity, bitten by a radioactive spider and given spider abilities, and because of that, loses just a little bit of credibility in this. I know what you're thinking. Why? Well, because number 1 on this list doesn't have any superpowers, and I feel like that makes them superior. So for Marvel, the greatest vigilante, in my opinion, was obviously Spider-Man. That's why they're number 2. For DC, the number 1 vigilante for me, masked hero, or masked being, is Batman. I am Batman. And the reason why Batman's number 1 on this list, for multiple reasons. He is a multi-billionaire during the day, partying up with the elites, making it seem like he hates Batman and most of the crime in the city, but doesn't know quite sure what to do with it. And at night, dresses up as the Batman and beats people up, stops crimes, and defeats supervillains that are definitely much stronger than him. And he's on this list as number 1, not just for the fact that many people didn't know who the heck he was, but also for the fact that this man has no superpowers. Now, that being said, that does not mean he has any superhuman feats. I'm just saying that physiologically, he is just a human male. No special treatments. Okay? Like, just think of that for a minute. Master of multiple martial arts. Highly intelligent. Very good detective. Able to solve crimes without a problem. And that's why this person is number 1 on this list. So, my question for you guys is, well, do you agree with this list? Do you believe Batman is the number 1? Who do you think is number 1? Let me know in the comments. I'm curious at what you guys have to say. But, like always, if you like the content you see and want to make sure I do more, please like and subscribe below. As always, we're continuing this 30-day challenge, and I believe I have a decent amount still to go. But we're getting closer to the end. So for now, this is BC Eel signing out, and I'll see you in the next video.